if you're not like
Yeah.
going into a typical 9-to-5 job, it can be scary for parents. So my mum was like, yeah, let's start thinking about something else.
Where is it?
I was just unpacking it all.
Is it in there?
What is what in there?
My favorite thing to say to people who are like, oh, my son's, thinking of being an actor. I like, my first piece of advice is you've got to love it because it doesn't always love you back.
You're gonna be okay.
I would have gone to that party if you weren't with me.
Audition hits my inbox. The first thing I'm going to do is read everything.
I don't know, Jordan. It's probably back at the diner or the cops picked it up.
The key to Hallmark is unless you are the main character, like your like motivation in any scene is how can I help you? Like just on that in terms of stakes, like if you're like, yeah, but how do I find these two people are just like having a conversation in a cafe? Like if the script doesn't have stakes in it, doesn't mean you can't make them up.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Welcome back with another episode. I know it's been a little while since I've recorded one, but we're back again. I've been just traveling and stuff like that. Again, guys, if this is your first time checking us out, listening to us on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to follow us, make sure to support us. But again, guys, I don't want to waste more time. I have a very special guest today. Someone I met recently, actually. Someone that shares the same agent as me. So shout out to Danny.
Hey, Danny.
Hey, Danny, how's it going? And but yeah, Chelsea Brown, everyone.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Chelsea. How's it going?
I'm great, thank
good to see
you.
you.
You too.
Well, thanks for gracing us with your presence on the podcast.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so I think you may have seen why this is called Breakthrough, but sometimes people ask me like, why is this called Breakthrough? Again, if you have watched an episode or two, this is just about like inspiring people to go after their dreams. Again, breakthrough doesn't have to be something big, just like the small wins. So this is kind of like what started the podcast in the first place. But thanks for joining us and for coming on here today to share with us your wisdom and your knowledge and your everything. So
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I usually kickstart the podcast always with the same question. We get to know the guests a little bit with how they got started with acting. So take us back to Australia when you were there. So like, were you acting back in Australia? What
I
were you
was,
doing?
yeah. So I started acting really young, and then I stepped away from it for a long time. Then I came back. So I was a commercial actor when I was like 2 years old. Did a lot of like catalog stuff and commercial stuff, and always loved it. I was like very drawn to, the theatrical side of life, and I had parents that were very encouraging of like my creativity and
Really?
well, like you can do whatever you want. So I pursued that, and I think everyone goes through like an awkward like teenage phase, and then at that point I started becoming aware of maybe there are other things in the world that I should be focusing on. And my mum, who was like forever the pragmatist, she was like, what are you actually going to do? Like,
Right.
so I think a lot of people that are going into, the arts or following their passion, whatever that is, if you're not like going into a typical 9-to-5 job, it can be scary for parents. So my mum was like, yeah, let's start thinking about something else when I was like year 11. And
11, my goodness.
yeah. Well, but I mean, at that point I did have to start thinking, and so the plan was always to go to acting school when I graduated from high school. And she kind of planted the seed of like, well, maybe think of something more realistic. Which I feel like everyone in the arts.
So she you at 11 years old.
A year 11. So I was
year 11.
year
Okay.
11 in school, like 11th grade.
Oh, 11th grade. My bad. Okay. I got it.
So I would have been 15. I think I was young for my year.
You were young. Okay.
And so I was like, okay, well, I like performing and I like reading and I do debating. I was like, maybe law if I get the marks. So I did get the marks and then went to law school. And that was a really good exercise in going away and doing the thing you think that the world wants you to do that you're not necessarily passionate about, but just going and doing something else so that resolutely like your heart still burns for this other thing over here that's like secretly, quietly whispering to you.
Right.
You know, and
Yes.
so I think a lot of people who are lucky enough to kind of dive straight in and pursue the arts, or you know, get a lucky break early, there's less I mean, it's a great thing that they get to do that, but there's less kind of tenacity, I think, involved in finally getting to that point, because if you have gone and seen the world through another lens, or gone and pursued another thing, and that artistic voice still calls to you, I think that then you know, right?
Right.
Because through the hard times, there's a lot of hard times, as you know, in acting.
Yes. If
There's a lot of, sorry, go.
No, I was just gonna say, if anything, there's more hard times than good times.
Absolutely. Like, my favorite thing to say to people who are like, oh, my son's, you know, thinking of being an actor. I like, my first piece of advice is you've got to love it, because it doesn't always love you back.
Right.
You know?
No, for sure. Like, if you're counting on this to pay your bills or something, you're the wrong one.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's
Change
not
careers.
it's not a get rich quick scheme. It's definitely not.
Even then, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
So
So
a lot of work and a lot of dedication. So
yeah. And I got to the point where I was like, no, this is definitely the thing I want to do.
Nice.
Like, I now have a $100,000 student loan, but I now know that even through the hard times and the times when I, you know, haven't booked in months, or, you know, get pinned a bunch of times, but don't actually like end up on set. It's like, I know, like, it's not like a question anymore of like, oh, maybe this isn't the thing for me. Like, no, I know. I know. Yeah.
So I guess, like, it begs the question, what happened with law, like, at this point? Did you just kind of like
do you want the really honest answer?
Yes, I mean, tell us. Like, this is uncensored. Like, this is...
Yeah. Okay. I got, so my mum was the pragmatist. My dad was the dreamer.
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was like 8, and I lived with my mum, and so the pragmatic kind of voice took over, and the dreamer voice kind of like was weekends and Wednesdays. But I think, my dad had also studied law and hated it and not finished, and he was like, "This is not for you. Don't do it." And I was like, "No, I think it's good." You know, as a then 16-year-old, I was like
really for it, and your dad not so much.
Yeah, because my dad was like, "You're gonna hate it." But me thinking I know everything because I'm 16 years old at the time, and of course I know everything. 16, Duh. At that point, I was like, no, I think I've thought it through, and this is my skill set, and it aligns, and I'm gonna go do it. And I got 2 years in, and I was like, I hate this. I hate this so much. And I would look.
What did you hate about it? I'm just curious. Like, was it mainly the? I mean, look, I have like a lot of like lawyer friends of mine. And I think, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that the most painful thing in that field is just there's so many regulations and laws you got to learn and you got to know by heart. And is this what was that the main sort of issue?
No, it didn't come down to that. It came down to more like more idealistic things. So, number one, the way that like. I'm going to try to, this is a really boring topic, so I'm going to speed through it. But number one, there's this like bell curve that happens in marking in law where like only a very small number of people can get top marks, no matter how talented the pool is, because everyone doing law is a pretty high caliber. But to get like a distinction or a high distinction, you have to be like 10 people will get that out of 200 law students.
That's crazy.
So, but those people are the ones that are going to get good jobs. So all of a sudden you have these fiercely intelligent people who are used to being like top of everything, all competing with each other. And it was just like the Hunger Games. Like, I had friends that literally, like, my car broke down and I asked one of my friends who was in my law class, we had an assignment due the same day. I was like, dude, if I email this to you, can you please print it? You have to hand yours in. Can you hand mine in as well? And he's like, yeah, of course, I've got you. Meanwhile, I'm like on the highway, my car's steaming. Like, I stuck there for hours. And then finally like deal with that and get home, and it's like 9 p.m. And I'm like, oh, I should just call him and just make sure, you know, everything's okay. I called him and I was like, hey man, like just checking you got it in okay. He's like, oh, I forgot. Sorry.
Oh, of course you did.
I was like, no, you didn't. You did not forget. I know you. So it was that. It was like, get me away from these people. It was also the reality. I think, you know, law is one of those things that's very glamorized. You know, watch a few like like you grow up watching Law and Order and you're like, oh, it's just hot people walking around in suits and like
Right.
yelling at each other in court, but like it's not that.
It's not that.
It's not that. Like people are earning good money, but people are also like giving up their life with their partner and missing tucking their kids into bed and their long days, and you slave away for years, and like none of that interested me.
Right.
And I found the content interesting. I found learning about law interesting, but also like once you start learning about law, you realize there's a huge chasm between like justice and what's right and what's legal.
Right.
You know? True. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way as well.
Yeah,
and at the end of the day, I was just like, oh, these people are killing me. Like I don't get me out of here. I finished it though.
You finished.
I finished it, but then I was like, but because I didn't want to go back to my dad and say you were right.
I love it. It's just so casual.
Well, it's you know what? It's the card I have in my back pocket. If everyone
the wild card.
If ever anyone calls me a dumb actress, I can just pull that out and be like, actually.
Say that to me again, please.
So yeah, you know, it has its perks, but it was it's an expensive you know, back pocket card.
No, for sure. So, okay, so we toss that aside. At least for now. I don't know if you're gonna revisit this
forever. No.
Okay,
forever. You heard it here first. Forever.
Okay, so when did you decide that you wanted to move here? So how did the transition happen from Australia to here? Did you know that you wanted to move abroad, or that just sort of happened later?
Yeah, I felt like I always, growing up in Australia, like most Australians grow up with like the itch to travel, because we're a big island, but we're an island. And
you know, it's funny that you say that, because I would think like if I was born in a country like Australia, I would never leave. Well, it's so beautiful.
It is so beautiful.
It's the oceans, the nature, the beautiful weather all the time.
You are preaching to the choir, like absolutely, it's amazing. But the one thing, like, and I say this to people all the time, like I'm from Sydney, and Sydney is like a world-class city. Like it has. Not only does it have like a buzz to it, like a big city like London or New York, it's got amazing restaurants and bars and a vibe, but also like you get in an Uber, and in 15 minutes from the heart of the city, you're at like the world's best beaches. It has everything except a robust film industry. Yeah. So that's kind of where
it's not the worst, but it's not so good.
Yeah,
either, right?
But the thing with the Australian industry and like some amazing film and TV comes out of Australia. There's not a lot of it, but when it's done well, it's incredible. Some of my my favorite films are Australian.
Nice.
But what happens is there are a lot of actors in Australia, and there's not a lot of work, and there's not a lot of money. So the frustration that a lot of young Australian actors find themselves up against is that casting has to play it safe, because casting, unless you're known, or you're like fresh out of school and you're like this like kooky looking 18-year-old, like you've just kind of missed the boat. Like the same 20 people get cast in everything. And I was working a little bit, but it kind of got to the point where so I'd finished my law degree, went and studied 3 years of full-time acting, worked for a couple of years, and I was like gaining some traction. I was getting shortlisted for like a 2-year contract in Home and Away and this and that, and it was like enough to kind of keep me going in terms of my dream is not dead. But I think I would have waited forever for like any kind of career to take off there. Right. So
and
I missed it.
Never happened too, right?
Yeah,
there's never guarantees in this industry. Right?
Yeah, and I didn't want to take that chance.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
And then so moving to Vancouver though, I just had a number of.
So like States was off the table already?
Well, no, States is always on the table, and this is the thing as well. If you are an Australian actor. Growing up in Australia, like you grow up being like, I'm going to move to LA one day. That's like that's the only thing that goes through our heads, because that's the only place that exists. Like all the way in Australia, that's the only place that exists as like viable. Maybe London, because we get like a free visa, but it's really like with work visas in the States, it is really a catch-22 for actors that aren't from the States. Like, you know, if you were to audition and book a role. Like, unless it's like a lead or like a number 1, 2, or 3, like they're gonna pass on you if they have to process a visa for you. Like the turnaround times on specifically TV, like, but also maybe film, depending on like casting happens like right at the end of the, like when you're coming close to going to camera. That's kind of when the bulk of the casting happens. And any of those smaller roles, no one in the States is going to book you for that without a visa. They're not going to rush through a visa. They want you to already have a visa, but you can only get a visa if you already have work. So it's this big catch-22, right?
Yeah, it's kind of this paradox. That
Yeah,
you're in,
absolutely.
that, like where you need a visa to work, but also you don't get a visa if you're to work. So like, how do you even get one?
And
right?
there's
So-
this huge mythology around it as well, because like you're kind of you want to situate yourself there because you feel like Australia has less opportunity, but with no credits, and like, so a lot of actors will end up getting it, same as here. Like if you're from Canada and you're going to the States as an actor, you'd apply for an O1. But even building up enough work in Australia is a hard thing to do, to be able to then go get an O1 and work in the States.
But I think like it's also I feel like it's getting to a point where it's not about like the amount of credits and the amount of things you've been on. It's about like what you can also bring, like whether you're also like the right fit for those roles in the States. So like, I feel like right now, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that the ones who are making the transitions from here to the States, it's just because, you know, they've done a crazy self tape, and then there's no better option across all the Americans. Like she or he is the only option. Like she did a phenomenal tape, and then next thing you know, they gave them a visa, no one visa or something, and then they moved. So I don't even know if like having enough credits under our belt is a guarantee to go there. Like I'm not sure, honestly, but it's a gray area. It's just it's there's no, also like, I mean, you can also like get a green card if you have money. Like, you know, if you have like 20K or whatever, you can just get that, from what I heard. But
well, even in, I don't know about the green card, but like applying for an O1, like that process can cost anywhere between $5,000 and $10,000. And then when you get there, you can only, like, the hard thing for actors is you can only work as an actor. So you've got to have enough money kind of sitting in the bank, or you've got to be working remote, like, you know, back in Canada, and to make it work, because as you know, like like it's feast and famine acting, right? You know, you could book 3 things back to back and then not work for 6, 8, 12 months, or be auditioning all the time. Like you're working, you're just not getting remunerated for it. So, and you know, and LA is an expensive city, and I don't want to, this sounds really negative. I'm really not trying to be negative. I'm trying to be realistic about it. But it was, so long way around the barn with the visa stuff. But the reason I ended up in Vancouver is because I found myself striking up conversations with strangers who were in the industry in Sydney.
okay,
And multiple times, these complete strangers were like,
Vancouver.
if I were you, I would be in Vancouver. And I was like, what? Like Canada?
Yeah.
Like I had no idea.
Vancouver was booming. Yeah.
Like Hollywood North, right? Like I just had no idea. And,
Right.
you know, being part of one of the few benefits of being part of the Commonwealth is that we get a visa if we want it. So I just applied and came. I was like, okay, well, I'm, you know.
When did you do this? Like, when did you move
This
here?
was in, I moved here halfway through 2019, like 6 months before COVID hit. And I came with a chunk of money I'd saved from acting work.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, because I've always, like, the hustle is real with acting, right? Like, I've always had 4 jobs. Even when I was, like, even in law school, I had 4 jobs. Like, I've just always done that.
Hustler Chelsea.
But because I also don't want to, like, you know, I want to be able to, if an opportunity strikes, I want to be able to take it. And I don't want to ever have to say no to an opportunity, acting or otherwise, because I can't afford, like, if I take this job that pays like an indie film job that pays $100 a day, and I'm going to do that for a month, like, I don't want to be saying no to an amazing opportunity like that because I can't make rent. So I think, like, I've always got a little bit stashed aside for creative Chelsea, so that I can say yes to the thing, to, you know, to passion things. And I do have a little bit of wriggle room so that, you know, I can take my foot off the gas for a moment and just focus on a creative opportunity when that comes.
Love it.
So I had some acting money saved up to move to Vancouver. And for the first time in my life, I was like, I'm moving to a new city. I'm going to spend 6 months just being an actor. Just focusing on, like, setting myself up.
So you did nothing else in 6 months than just you being immersed into the acting
Yeah.
in Vancouver.
Yeah, as well as much as I could.
Workshops,
Like it was more
classes,
like
you
just
name
trying to
it.
kick my way into rooms.
Right.
But yeah, like immediately when I got here, it was like, okay, do my research on classes, build community.
Right.
Like
Did you consider yourself like as like where were you in your career? Like were you like kind of like a beginner? Like what do you
I
what
had
did you consider yourself as?
a trained actor at the start of my career. Like I'd had a couple of TV roles. I had a bunch of commercial
So you're not
experience.
starting out. Okay. That's
No, but moving to a new city on the other side of the world definitely feels like starting out
Yeah,
again,
definitely
right?
feels like it,
Because
yeah.
then you need to build all those relationships from the ground up. So getting into class, building community and peers around that, like that's also like a wealth of knowledge as well. Like once you're in class and you're talking to people who have more experience in the city than you do, you know, those people become invaluable for like, you know, telling you like what agencies you might want to be hitting up, or like, oh, I see your talent, like I can recommend you to my agent. Like I don't think we have anyone on the books that looks like you.
Nice.
You know, things like that. Like I found really quickly that in Vancouver, the city is so small that like recommendations go a really long way. Like if you can be in class working your butt off and your teacher can vouch for you with an agent, or like a peer in that class can go to their agent and say, hey, like this person's just moved here. I've seen their work. They work hard. I think you might be interested in having a meeting. Like I've set other people up with our agent, Danny, who've gone on to be repped by them for years. Like
Yes. Yeah.
it's
Well, how'd you even get Danny? Like, how did you guys?
yeah, I still had my Australian agent when I moved over here, so I was still kind of auditioning there, and he was doing intros. I'd done a bunch of research for agents. One thing that Vancouver has that I haven't seen anywhere else that I found super valuable when I moved here is, and this is gonna be like a little plug for Kurt, who does Artist to Artist. Have you heard of that platform?
Yeah, artist to artist. Yeah.
Yeah, Artist to Artist is this, for those who don't know it, Artist to Artist is this
Great, actually. Yes,
platform, that they do, I think it's only like 4 times a year now. They've kind of slowed it down, but
Yep, they do like these scene competitions or
yeah, well, it's more of a like you submit a self tape, you get to choose a self tape, which is nice. Like you pick something that you think works for you, something that's dynamic, something that that suits your range. You put that tape down, you submit it. It's like you pay like a processing fee or something. It's
and
not.
they will give you feedback.
Yeah, it's not super expensive or anything. I think it just covers their costs, and then anything that they make from profit goes to like an actors equity fund, I think.
Okay.
But you get feedback regardless. So once you've submitted, at least 2 people are going to give you detailed feedback and tell you where they think you should be working on next. So that gives you like in an industry where
you never get.
Oh my God. So yeah, you like particularly now that you're not in the room, like you just like 90% of what we do is pretending to be someone else in our living room and then just sending that into the ether, like taping it and then just pressing send on your email and then like being like, okay, that's it. And you have to like make your peace with that, because if you can't be waiting to hear back, because you don't get it. Like if you're someone who needs validation, like acting is not for you. Nope. But yeah, so when I got here, I submitted a tape to Artist. I found out about it pretty quick, submitted it, and then they always ask like, do you want to be sent to agents? If your tape kind of ranks in the top 10, they'll send you not only to casting directors but to agents in the city.
AMAW who started it? No.
His name's Kurt. I'm blanking on his last name right now.
One of my friends, Najana, she did it, and she told me that I can't remember the guy who put it together, but I think they were from AMAW. Again, I'm not. Don't quote me on it.
I'm actually not sure what his background is, but he's great. And it's just like a really wonderful platform to connect people, and then like so they'll. I guess like it's weird because like you don't usually like see your work like ranked. They have like 5 different categories of things that they mark you on, like confidence and like script appropriateness and are they like, you know, off book, and do they have inner life, and like is this material like good material to be using, and you get like really detailed feedback, and then so they sort of give you a ranking, and then the top 10 get submitted directly to a casting director who will then do a little go see or like shoot them an audition from there, and that's like a foot in the door. But then also that's how I got my agent. So like, thank you, Kurt. That's like a really great thing that we have here in Vancouver,
So
right?
then Kirk, he basically referred you to Danny. Is that how it works? Or?
No, so I just placed in the top 10, and then
Wow, right on.
those people in the top 10 all got sent, like all their tapes got sent to all the agents in the city.
Wow.
And then I think that's how that happened. Yeah, no, that's how that happened.
I love it.
And then, but that
What a
tape
great
that
way to get an agent. I love it.
that tape that I did, it was like a scene from Luther, which is like, if you're ever looking for like scenes to put down and play with in class or whatever, like Luther is badass. Like it's a really,
We're gonna
really
cut
great
to Chelsea's
show.
tape. I'm just kidding.
Please don't. But yeah, and then like I very quickly found out in Vancouver, like it was like, so I moved here with those savings and was like, I'm just going to focus on acting. And then 6 months later, when my money was almost out, COVID hit.
Yes.
But in that 6 months, I'd been auditioning for like things that I could never have dreamed of in Australia.
Give us a taste. What were you
Lead role on like a Netflix show, and like things I'm never gonna get because that's gonna go to like someone from LA, or it actually did go to another Australian, but she was already established. But getting seen, right, which is crazy. And this is kind of in the height of the CW shows were all still kicking, and like I was in at Sean and JJ's office who cast Riverdale and Flash and all of those shows when they were still running, and I was in there like once a week, like straight off the bat auditioning for guest stars, and I was like, I felt like such an imposter because these roles were so much bigger than I'd ever gone in for. But also like pinching myself, being like, am I in a dream? Like these opportunities do not exist in Australia. Like it was
the good old days.
Yeah, I know. Okay, it's been a weird time, guys. We can talk about that too if you like. But yeah, all to say,
acting,
I like spent 6 months setting myself up, and then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, I have no money. I
you didn't plan for COVID, like,
oh my gosh,
how could you have foreseen this? There's no way. Like, it's
no. And then, it was a weird time for everyone, but like being stuck on the other side of the world, like there was a real moment when I was like, it's now and whenever I need to go home or stay here.
And also, like, I feel like Australia, they had like a really strict COVID plan or whatever, like protocol. Like they didn't allow anyone. Like I think at some point they had literally 0 cases, which I was like watching this on TV.
They had 0 cases, but I was
at
also
some point,
like we were like at home.
Nobody was going in.
Not allowed to, like we were at like 1 walk a day kind of thing, and it hadn't hit Australia yet. And so I'd go online and see all my friends on like boat parties, like pouring champagne everywhere. Like I'm like, okay, cool, maybe I've made the wrong decision. But then they, it hit there later, and then we relaxed, and I stayed here. Okay. Yeah. So during that 6 months, I had, again, like as part of like throwing myself into as much industry as I could, like being in class, hustling to get an agent. I also, I had done some PA work back in Australia, but PA work in Australia is very different to here because the sets are a lot smaller. So a PA in Australia, you're working directly with the producer. You're like a producer. You're a producer's assistant.
Really? Okay.
But a PA here, didn't know when I signed up for it, is like you're like so hardworking, but it falls under the locations department, right? You're literally like walking around just picking up rubbish and running coffees, like. But for 15 hours a day, like I remember there was some days where I was like, we were shooting downtown, and I was literally just standing watching a pile of cables on the corner of the street. I was like, a padlock could do my job right now. Like, no, honestly, so much respect for anyone who is PAing, because it is tough. The days are long, like 15-hour plus days. Yeah, like they're incredible. Like, but I realized I just couldn't keep that up because pre-COVID, I don't know if you remember, but the turnarounds for auditions, you would get an audition back when they were seeing people in the room. You'd get an audition at 5 p.m. Like, hit your inbox. We need to see you at 11 a.m. tomorrow. And it's like 8 pages. Yeah. And crazy. I'm, as 15-hour days of PA, I'm like, I've still got 7 hours of work, and then I'm going to finish at 1 a.m. and I got to go home and learn my lines and then somehow be ready to and fresh and like prepared to go step into a casting office at 11 a.m. with 8 pages down. Like, so I am very much team self-tape now. I think that it in a world where actors don't have a lot of agency, there's a lot of like, you know, sitting and waiting for auditions and and doing the work and then casting it out and being okay with not hearing back, or like being like that the work is enough, and it has to be enough, because if you're waiting, you know, if you're like white knuckling waiting for that booking and you're like super unhappy until that booking comes, then it's never going to work for you, because it's like
In the
1 in
wrong
100,
field,
right? Like, yeah, I lost my train of thought, but
yeah, no, I think yeah, I think we understand that, you know, you were keeping yourself busy with COVID and stuff like that. You got yourself an agent and stuff, getting ready for things we're gonna, you know, boom back, right? Okay, great. So I want to ask you. So obviously, like, do you actually? You know what? Let's just get into it, because I was telling you in the beginning. There's always like an ultimate question in the podcast.
okay.
I mean, it's not even that ultimate. It's just like it's a question at the end. Like, it's not that. So, how's your American?
Like my standard American accent.
Your standard American accent. How's that?
It's comfortable. It's
Yeah.
I audition like
Nice.
95% of the time in like a standard US accent.
Nice.
I think it's so switching back. That was one of the things in terms of like, okay, I'm moving away from all my friends and family
Yeah.
to live on the other side of the world and do this. Like, I need to, what are the things I need to have prepared? And that was one of the things. I spent a month coaching with a wonderful woman based in Sydney who's a voice coach called Linda Nichols Gidley. I still coach with her. Like, if I need a Scottish accent in 24 hours, she will give me a Scottish accent in 24 hours. She's incredible.
Wow.
But I did a month of intensive classes with her, just making sure I had a passable North American accent. And even when I got here and Danny kind of took me onto her roster, she was like, you can kind of like just relax a little bit in the accent, because, you know, you're trying so hard to sound a certain way. But then when you get here, it does ease up and like it kind of drops in somewhere.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, makes sense. So I think the question is, because I mean, like asking this question of Canadian or American, like it's not as juicy because they already speak American. But someone, I think there's like a British or like an Australian who has to learn an American accent because they've gone through the training, right? Like for us, like in Canada, it's a little easier because like it's basically the same, just a couple things different.
Yeah.
Like we're very, very close to American, just like because of our culture and background. But for you, which you had to undergo training and stuff like that. So if someone has to learn an American accent in 24 hours, right? How would you say you would do that? Like how does American come to you? Like how do you go into like Chelsea American mode?
Well, I think my way in would be different from like a Canadian's way in or an English person's way in, because the way that I'm changing, like the muscles in my mouth would be different, because I speak with an Australian accent and my mouth and the muscles I use to speak are different. Like, so, you know, as an Australian, we like our tongues sit quite flat. We're pretty lazy with our tongues. We kind of speak out the side of our mouths. I kind of like to joke and say we're trying to keep the flies out. So we speak like this. And we often like speak with an upward inflection. So the main things for, I guess, for an Australian trying to learn a US accent is drop. And actually Canadians have this as well, but we tend to finish on upward inflections.
Oh,
so
we upspeak a lot.
Yeah. So things are always questions at the end of sentences.
Yes.
So the first thing for sure is like landing down, like the last, if you were to take your script and get a pen, like circle the last word in every sentence and make sure you land down on that.
Right. You don't
like
upspeak it,
you don't upspeak. The rhotic R is a big thing as well.
The R's that's the biggest
a
one.
huge thing. Yeah. Well, we say car, like so it would be car, but the one, like a lot of Australians who are starting to learn a US accent, they will add R's in where they don't belong as well.
Okay. Oh,
so like
interesting.
Yeah, like I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this, but my housemate, who's also an Australian actor, we were reading through a script the other day and it's in a US accent. And even after 5 years of being here, like every now and then you hear a little thing, and he said, idea, which is, and added an R to the word idea.
Yeah.
So, little things like that.
Oh, interesting. I never thought of that.
Yeah. Like we kind of slip, we think, oh, hit the R's. So
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
add extra R's.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also a confidence thing. And I think
Yeah.
that's how I approach,
Yeah.
like I love working in different accents, but
Mm-hmm.
that's how I approach any accent is like what the cultural vibe of that accent is.
The melody, yeah.
And like Americans, like as different from Canadians, or at least my understanding of it, like Americans, you can always tell an American in the room because they take up more space. They feel like they have, it's not necessarily a bad thing, although I know it's a weird time right now. So, but like Americans have a sense of like innate entitlement to speak.
Yes, I was gonna bring this up next. Actually.
They have the right to speak, whereas Canadians are like, like if you think about a Canadian accent, like or like Canadian habits, like sorry is like a huge thing that is like a huge cultural thing. Canadians apologize for even talking.
Yes.
And same as Australians,
they were very nice, yeah.
We
speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was gonna say that, like, Americans are very loud. Like
very much
they're
so.
not like shy of like
always hear them in a
expressing how they
room.
feel. If you ever like go to the States and like watch how they are, like, and even like sometimes like on the streets, it's like they're very loud, like, and you notice like, oh, okay, they're very loud, like they don't shy from it. They're very expressive, right? So I think once you get that, then you understand like, okay, like I'm going into the American way of speaking.
But it's also a confidence thing, and I think
absolutely.
You said just a minute ago that Canadians have an easier time getting into a US accent because it's similar.
Yeah.
I would also say that in some instances it's harder to get into a US accent from a Canadian accent because it's so similar.
Yeah.
Because the differences are so much more nuanced. Like it's there's like the classic like about like that sound has to change, but there's also an energy that has to change, and I think a lot of
that's the biggest one for Canadians
because it's such a different accent. Like Australians or anyone who does not have a natural North American accent has to work very hard on it. But I think a lot of people who have Canadian accents that are auditioning for American roles, because it's so close, maybe there isn't as much need to be like, oh no, I need to make this sound American because it's so close. They're like, oh, I'll just switch out a couple of vowel sounds and stuff. But I feel like energetically it is a huge difference, right? And the casting sees that, and there is, as much as I hate to say it, from my experience, I do see like a bias from US producers coming up here, filming here. Like a lot of the time they fly people up because there's this weird, like, I don't know where it comes from, but I've experienced this weird, like, US producers can sometimes feel like, an American actor and a Canadian actor side by side. This is a controversial take, but I'm just going to say it. American actor, Canadian actor, side by side, same talent. Maybe the Canadian's slightly better. Like 9 times out of 10, I think that a producer will back the American choice because of an element of confidence and taking up space and an energetic, like fairy dust that they're used to. Because I think that particularly in Vancouver and the West, the West Coast energy might be different in Toronto. You've lived there very briefly, but
for a month,
I've never been there. But West Coast energy is very different to East Coast energy as well. I do think that like in Vancouver, we are very chill. It's a very chill city. And we don't take up a lot of space. And I think that sometimes that energy translates in tapes. So I think that I do think that when either Australians or Canadians or anyone is trying to take on a US accent, like it really is that big bombastic energy and that like taking out the apology in your work. Because one of my coaches said this recently, that he'd been talking to casting directors in LA and they felt that there was this this epidemic of apology coming through in self-tapes.
Apologetic energy that you're emanating. Absolutely.
Which is interesting. So I think just developing a confidence, developing a strong point of view is another very American thing, but also something that's just healthy to practice to like fill yourself out more with your own ideas and your own convictions, like not being afraid of expressing that.
No, totally. I mean, like, I think for Canadians, like, we don't have as hard of a time with the sound changes, because that one is easy for us. Like, it's basically I think like the biggest one for us is just like the sorries. I mean, I don't even say sorry, like, because I mean, grew up in Canada, but like I was like all my 20s were pretty much in the States. Like, I literally learned English in the States, so I'm kind of like more on the US side when I speak American. I don't say like sorry. I always like I've always like said sorry, right? So but yeah, so like, you know, the sorry, the sorries, this is like the bigger ones. But you're right. Like, I mean, it's like an energy thing. And then as you said, like, Canadians are very apologetic. Even the way they speak, they're very empathetic, and they're very shy, but like hesitant, you know, like a little bit ish maybe. Whereas like Americans, they take up space, and they're very loud, and they're very like as you said, like, they feel entitled about stuff, right?
But if you think about like the fundamentals of American culture, like children grow up being
dream,
told,
right?
like, it's the American dream. You could like come from nothing, and like the sky is the limit. You can like, it's literally in the architecture of American society that you could come from anywhere or nowhere in the States and become whoever you want to be. Like, but you got to go take that. So I think that energy is like very implicit in.
And this is also the same reason why Americans are so patriotic. Like, there's a reason why you see like American flags on TV, and like, if you ever like watch a Hollywood movie, like, there's always an American flag somewhere. Like, literally, like, just like I promise you, there's always an American flags somewhere, if it makes sense, right? Like, for it to be there. The reason why is just because they want to how do you say that? They want to you know, like, I was looking for the word, encourage. They want to encourage people to, like, you know, go after their dreams, and, you know, like, you know, America, the land of opportunities, and you can do whatever you want if you set your mind.
Well, not right now, but
not right now, but you know, like, usually speaking,
we won't talk about that.
But I think it's all interconnected, right? Like the whole American flag, and I've always like wondered, like, why are they so patriotic? Like, I was like, American flag, and like it's literally everywhere, and I was like, okay, that's why. Like, it just, you know, it's the land of opportunities, and then they go after their things.
Their culture's got a full hype team built into it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, awesome. That was great. So let's just go back a little bit into your career. So, you know, I've asked this question on the show before, but I'm always intrigued as to like, what do people do when you get a script? Like, do you what do you do? I mean, like, obviously there's like different ways you can take this on. Like, and then like, if you're working like 17 hours, like, you know, you might not put a lot of time into memorization, especially if you know that you're not gonna be fully off book for the next day. So like, I guess like when you get an audition, and again, it depends on how big the audition is. Like, do you want to give us like a quick overview of what happens?
Yeah. I mean, like, the minutia role to role will change. Like, there are some big things that I do every time, and then there are little things that I will do depending on what the role requires. I get an audition. First thing you do is confirm it. Keep your agents happy. Audition hits my inbox. The first thing I'm going to do is read everything. Confirm. Read everything. You know, on that breakdown. You know, see what is it network? Is it, you know, for Netflix or HBO? Is it, you know, for...
What is it for?
Yeah, just because that immediately is going to dictate tone, you know, and I want to start wrapping my head around the world as soon as I can, right? You know, from there, I will, before I've even opened the script, I'll look at who's attached, who's producing, who's directing, and kind of get a sense of where this is going to play before I've even read it. Like, I've read you know, you read in the breakdown, you'll get like, you know, your character breakdown and then a synopsis. Like, I've read that, but then like, I like to go and, you know, be a little nosy and see, and see like, you know, who's producing this, where it's going to be, what they've done, what, like, you know,
Okay.
the kind of tone of
amazing,
stuff
yeah.
that they've worked in.
Yeah.
Just so, because I mean, there are some scripts, if you read them with no context, you could be like, is this a drama? Is this a
You can't
comedy? And you
tell.
have no idea.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to get an idea of the world I'm playing in before I even pick up the sides, because I think that,
Makes sense.
yeah, I don't want to get too locked into just the words. I want to somewhere in my subconscious be like building out the world of.
So let me ask you this real quick. So you do, you research a little bit about the project,
Yeah.
right? You get the informations. Now, once you know, like for example, if it's a comedy, HBO, Netflix, whatever, how does that change your line delivery, I guess, right? Like if you know that you're going like, would you say the line differently if it's like a comedy than if it is a drama or like a Netflix? Like how would that translate into your work? Like what are the adjustments you would do depending on the project that this is on?
That's a really good question.
I'm just very curious. Yeah.
I mean, if it's something, okay, if I get the same script and it's pretty, you know, like you could take it a million ways.
Right.
If it was something like for Malcolm in the Middle, I'm going to know that, okay, my timing has to be good.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be comedy, but it's going to be, I mean, especially where the new season is kind of going without giving any spoilers.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to require like a pace to it. It's going to require that I really know my lines, like really, really know my lines, because there's going to be no room for like reaching for that, right?
Breaks and
It's going to be, it's going to sit within a certain world, within a certain tone, and it's going to be a little bit wacky, but maybe not because I'm playing it wacky, because the circumstance is wacky. But if you took that same script and it was Hallmark, it's going to be a completely different tone. So it's going to be
happy,
a little, you know, like nothing is. One of my friends, who's a wonderful actress, Francesca Bianchi, also in Vancouver, she has said before that like the key to Hallmark is unless you are the main character, if you are literally playing anyone else, your job, like your like motivation in any scene is how can I help you?
Yeah.
How can I fix this? How can I help you? You know, and carrying that energy in as like the through line for your scene as your motivation is something that like really helps with Hallmark. And then Hallmark, you know, you can't accidentally ad-lib any naughty words, you know. And same for you know, same for like any like cable stuff as well. Like, you know, if it's, you know, Netflix or HBO, it's gonna be, you know, it can be a little bit more pensive. It can be a little more, you know, you're aiming for as raw and natural as possible, depending on the tone of it, right? But you also have a bit more bandwidth to be a little darker and, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, it does. I mean, they're not like hard and fast rules, but broad stroke that, you know, different
like
things are gonna like have a different feel to them. And then for me as well, like here, one of the first things that I will do is, you know, figure out who this character is, and then also like, is she North American, or is there a world where it would make sense or add to the character that she could be Australian?
Okay, so you would always like consider the Australian.
If it makes sense, I'll tape in both accents.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and
I'm stealing this.
Yeah, no, but seriously, like,
just kidding.
if you have like two different versions of yourself, and like 95% of the tapes they're going to be getting are North American because they're casting in a North American market.
Correct.
Like, why not market yourself for all of the individuality that you have, the thing that's going to make you stand out, if it makes sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Like, if she's like, you know, working in a diner in the middle of like middle America, like, and she's never left town, she's not going to have an Australian accent.
Yeah.
But if she is you know, if she's like well-traveled and like, or like kind of kooky or, you know, like,
or something, like traveling around and stuff. Yeah.
But honestly, there's been at least 2 projects that I have taped for in both accents.
Nice.
And I've booked it, and
Which one did you do on set?
Australian.
Okay,
but I had to ask, I had to be like,
which one?
which one do you want? Because the preparation feels different. The character building feels different because it's a different energy. Because again, coming back to what we're saying about accents, it's a different energy. So that human becomes a completely different human. So I feel like going in, I need to I need to know what accent it's going to be before I do any work.
Yeah.
And then it's getting the lines down
Nice.
like as soon as possible.
So before even like starting like to write like your goals and like your little things, like really nailing the lines down before even doing that, or
I'll like, depending on the turnaround and depending on how much time I have, depending on how many lines there are. If it's if it's big and wordy, I'm like, oh, I gotta get to this as soon as possible. You know, I want to get those lines in my head.
You like freestyle the choices, I guess, and
yeah, I'm definitely never like making. I mean, it might also my approach like has changed over the years, and also like with the different project to project, it'll change. But very rarely am I making on this line I'm going to do this. On this line I'm going to do this. For sure, I'll like work out shifts in the scene. I'll work out, you know, the relationship with the person that like the relationship is the number one thing. Like, you know, you could be having the same conversation with someone that you love and someone that you really don't like being around, and every choice is going to be different.
I agree.
You know, you could say the lines, you could have the same lines and it's going to be a completely different conversation, you know? So yeah, I guess making those things real, like, you know, what do I want in the scene from this person? What is my relationship with this person? Like make it high stakes. Like, it's, I think that's it.
Let's talk about stakes a little bit.
Yeah, of
This
course.
is something we get a lot too, right? So when someone says raise the stakes, right? What does that mean to you? Like raise the stakes. Like when they say like, you know, you need to raise the stakes a little bit. Like, how do you translate this into the script? What do you what do you do to?
For me, that like it just means make it matter more, right?
Yeah.
And that could be urgency. It could be ticking clock. Like put a ticking clock in the scene. Like I've only got this little moment to tell you this because like someone's going to walk in and we're going to have to pretend like this conversation isn't happening or like this is the last time I'm going to see you before I move to the other side of the world and everything changes, you know? So I need you to know this before I go.
Yeah.
And like one
Just
tool,
like really meaning your objective, like really making sense, making sure it lands, right?
It can be, and also just having more at stake. If I don't get what I need from this conversation, what do I stand to lose, right? One tool I like to use from one of my coaches who's Australian but also works in LA, his name's Les Chantry. I highly recommend a book that he has. The name is gonna come to me, but Les Chantry, amazing coach.
Les Chantry, okay. Check it out.
He talks about like burning building. Like if you're what makes this conversation that we're having right now more important than my house, which is on fire right now? If my house is on fire right now, why do I stay here and talk to you?
Right.
This has to be more important than that.
For sure.
Even if it's a commercial for cat food. Like sometimes you got to raise the stakes and sometimes it's not appropriate, but make it matter.
Yeah.
Because when you commit to something,
absolutely,
like people become more invested in watching someone that's fighting for something. Because day to day, like, yes, we want to always be truthful, but truthful doesn't mean like small and meek. Yeah. You know, people fight for things every day, but also people compromise a lot every day. And we go through life like, you know, you're in a rush, but like you're going down the lift in your building and you stop at 5 floors and you're like, oh God, like you're compromising. Like you don't want to do that, but like you have to be polite and smile at your neighbor on the 5th floor and pretend like you're not like sweating because you needed to be somewhere 10 minutes ago.
Yes.
I think that, you know, like you need to, people compromise all day, every day. And we don't want to watch that when we get home. Yeah. People compromising. We want to watch people going for what they want. So I think that that's what makes compelling watching, like and compelling film and TV is people going for the thing that they want. And you've just got to find a way to care about it, you know? Like if I only have, why does this conversation have to happen right now? Yeah. Like why can't it wait 10 minutes? Yeah. You know? So yeah, I don't know, like there's a lot of little tricks.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you said it really well. And yeah, there's like this, not this saying, but there's this quote that one of the guys I trained with in LA, like Bernard Hiller, said, it's only when you invest in yourself that people will invest in you, right? So it's really important to make sure that you, as you said, fight in yourself to mean it more, to land it more, to like do whatever you gotta do to make sure that this other person gets what you are here for, right? So,
and I think like just on that in terms of stakes, like
mm-hmm.
if you're like, yeah, but how do I find these two people are just like having a conversation in a cafe?
Yeah.
Like if the script doesn't have stakes in it,
Yeah.
doesn't mean you can't make them up.
Yeah.
No one's gonna know that
Create
you've
them,
make it more interesting for yourself.
Yeah.
Even if it's a boring script that you're like, oh, like I have no connection to this, like spice it up.
Yeah.
Like no one's gonna know no one can see like the inner work you've done to make the scene interesting, like having a secret or like making the given circumstances that surround that scene in your head so much bigger. Or like if this doesn't go the way I want this scene, then like I lose my job, or like make it raise the stakes for yourself, even if they don't exist in the script, because no one can see what you're thinking, right? Like they just know that something interesting is going on.
Yes, absolutely. I think like you said it so well, and I think Jill Morrison is actually really good with this. I was doing a tape with her. Like
Jill's great.
Oh my, I love Jill. She's literally like like whenever I have like a comedy scene, she's my to-go person. But yeah, I mean, like I was like doing a tape with her the other day, and she gave me like a couple things to play around. Like she's like, hey, like I want you to do this as if you were a woman. I'm like, how to do that? Like I'm not a woman. I'll try. Like right. So like I tried my the best I could, and it was funny because like I didn't know what it was. I tried my best to like try to sound like not sound, but like behave and like the body language as a woman, and like she's like, okay, now I want you to do this as if you were Batman. Batman, like fuck yeah, I could do Batman.
Every boy's dream. I could be Batman.
So as you said, right? Like it's like giving yourself something, or like like another one that came in as well. Like okay, now you're gonna do the scene, and you gotta go to the bathroom, you gotta pee, but you have to stay here. You have to hold it. And as you said, like it's like raising the stakes. Like if you again, no one knows this. Like no one knows. Like,
well, Meryl. So I was watching an interview with Meryl Streep not long ago, and she said that a lot of for when she was filming Devil Wears Prada, she would think, how would Clint Eastwood deliver this line?
Right.
So like no one saw that, right? But like you've got Meryl Streep in front of a camera being like, I'm going to say this line like Clint Eastwood would say it.
Right.
Like just drawing on like whatever you can draw on. Like no one is ever going to see those thoughts. No one would ever know that had she not said it in an interview. But
it's really important I feel like this doesn't get enough coverage and like people don't talk enough, but it's really important. I mean, like the greatest, the greatest actors in the world do it. Like you got to be able to steal.
Yeah.
It's important like to like watch someone and be like, oh, that was good. You know what? Let me put that in my arsenal. Like, let me just steal that and use it later. So, a lot of the actors, like Leonardo DiCaprio does it a lot. Johnny Depp, everyone steals. Like, it's important to be able to like do something and just like, like steal it.
Absolutely, and that doesn't stop at actors. Like any like look at Tarantino. Like you can shot for shot like see his like inspiration board, right? When you watch his films, like I don't know if you've ever seen any of those Tarantino compilations.
I'm not like the biggest Tarantino fan, but I've seen like, at least like a movie from him. Yeah. I didn't watch Pulp Fiction. Did you watch that one?
You haven't seen Pulp Fiction?
No, I mean I'm. Is it?
Great.
Am I missing out? Okay.
Yeah, you should watch them all.
I'll watch. I'll watch it. I feel like this is probably the one that comes up the most when it comes to Tarantino.
Yeah. What film? Like what iconic film have you not seen that you're always a little bit embarrassed to tell people?
Okay. I'm gonna come clean, guys.
Go.
I have not watched The Godfather. I know it's fucking crazy. I was like literally. I actually started it 2 weeks ago. Okay, and I don't know. I mean, like I was trying to understand what do people like find in this movie, because like this is like arguably like one of the best movies ever made. I mean, it's up there at least, And I was like watching it, I'm like, okay, yeah, I see. But this is not quite the movie that I would like enjoy watching. And I was like trying to sit through it, but I'm watching and I'm watching and I'm watching. And I'm like,
you've also had to endure like decades of hype around it.
Yes,
right?
Okay. Also, like you're right, because this was also like, I mean, at its time, it must have been considered like a masterpiece. I mean, it still is, right? But also, you're right. You got to consider, like, like it had its time, the hype behind it and stuff like that. You also got to consider, like, the pool of other movies at the time when you consider The Godfather. Godfather was, like, obviously insane. I mean, I don't know about now, like, if I would say that. Like, there's so many good movies that came out since then, but I did not watch The Godfather. None of them. I tried to watch it the other day. I wasn't able to finish it. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it later. Did you watch The Godfather?
Yeah, I haven't seen
the.
I haven't seen the third. The third is supposed to be
There's a
like.
third. I didn't know. Was the
There's
third-
three. The second, second was really good as well, but
Yeah,
the third I didn't.
No.
But I think it's the least well regarded, but I haven't seen it.
It's just like one of those things that when they make a good movie. Did you watch Superbad by any chance?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is like.
Are we doing like a highbrow, lowbrow thing?
No, we're not. We're not doing that. It's just I'm trying to make an argument, but Superbad was like honestly, like in my eyes at least, like one of the funniest movie ever made. Like it's just so. I literally cannot watch Superbad without laughing. I could literally watch it 50 times in a row. I would always laugh at this movie. Like it's so funny, and honestly, like Seth Rogen and Goldberg, the other guy who wrote it. Seth Rogen,
I actually don't know.
one of the writers.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like it's so fucking good. Like it's just like it's so well written. It's so funny. But Superbad is one of those movies that is so good that they asked them, like, hey, would you ever make a second Superbad movie? They're like, you know what? Superbad movie was such a hit. We would never even risk making a second movie because we would be too scared that it might not work.
Well, have you seen Fleabag? Please tell me you've seen
Fleabag. I think of what
you would know if you've seen it. It's
Fleabag.
Fleabag. So Phoebe Waller-Bridge, like it's probably it's a like BBC limited series, 2 seasons. You could honestly binge 2 seasons in one day because they're like 6 half-hour episodes. So each season is 3 hours long. It's like watching 2 3-hour movies, and then it's just 2 seasons.
Yeah,
it's probably for me like the closest thing to a perfect series that exists.
That's a bold statement.
So like
I love that.
the funniest thing I've ever seen, and like not a moment wasted. Like if you want a masterclass on both acting and writing,
if I don't take it down, I'm gonna forget it. Fleabag, you said?
Fleabag. Oh my gosh! Anyone who hasn't seen Fleabag, like
I'll watch an
just
episode
stop
tonight.
this right now. Just go watch it.
Hey, Fleabag, guys. Let me know in the comments if this is.
Oh my gosh! And Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who created it and wrote it, stars in it as well. So that's like, I mean, that's like hugely inspiring for actors as well to just go out and create the roles you want, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. So I want to shift gears a little bit to maybe production, because I know you worked as a PA in Australia, which is not a PA is not the same thing here apparently.
It is not. No.
But was this like more of a like side gig for you, or like do you have some sort of like production aspirations behind your acting career? Like I see a lot of actors like who jump into productions and stuff like that later on in their career. Are you thinking that, like, is there like a movie or something you want to produce or something?
For me, like working as a PA was kind of like, so straight out of acting school. So I finished my law degree, did 3 years at acting school, and at that acting school we were very much encouraged to empower ourselves to make our own work. We cut together our own like demo reels at the end of like for graduation. Like we all helped shoot scenes for each other for those demo reels. We wrote and produced and shot and edited our like graduating short films. Like we were very much encouraged to do that again, like because in Australia there isn't a lot of work. And day one of a 3-year acting class, our teacher walked in and was like, so the statistics are 98% of actors will not work. Like people that train, people that decide they're going to be an actor. Day one of a 3-year degree. So he looked around the room at all 25 of us and was like, okay, so numbers wise, which one of you might go on to have a career here?
That's fucking
Who wants it the most? And so we like cutthroat, but also like realistic. And I think this is why Australian actors do well
they do
in different markets, because we are hungry dogs.
You have strong work ethics.
We know that no one's going to give it to us. We know that if we're not the best or like the most hardworking, we don't have a chance. So I think that really set everyone up with oh, okay, like we got to hustle.
Yeah.
And the production side of things was that it was the like working as a PA in Australia after I graduated was just more of an insight into like I got paid, number one, but also I got paid to learn how a set ran. And a set runs differently in Australia to here, like because they are just so much smaller and there's less people. But same thing when I moved here, I was like, okay, I'm in a PA. Didn't realize that I was not in the thick of I wasn't in the thick of the action as a PA here, but I did then quickly become a producer's assistant and was kind of more like in around the the core conversations and kind of got to be a fly on the wall that still was getting coffee, but a fly on the wall kind of learning things, right? And understanding the energy on a set and the etiquette on a set. I think that's really important because we spend so much of our time, again, like in front of our iPhones, auditioning, putting tapes down in our living room and sending them off, that when we finally do book something, like if you haven't, like the first time that happens, like unless you have, had very, very astute mentors who have prepped you on it, you have no idea what you're in for.
Yeah, you don't.
Your idea of what you're going to do on set is completely different to what actually happens on set. And a lot of it is like hurry up and wait, and it becomes, you have these other skills you have to develop, like how do I maintain my energy for a 15-hour day when my scene today is playing a traumatized person who is woken up in hospital having a meltdown, which actually happened last year, and was like how do you sustain that energy for like when the camera's finally on you? Like how do you stay a generous actor for other people? How do you stay both like calm enough to just like be present and like not burning yourself out or like putting yourself through hell, which like the early years of after graduating, when I had like a high stakes scene that I was, if I was doing a short film or whatever, like I would feel like I had to torture myself all day, and it's just not sustainable, right? Like trying to stay in this place, like waiting for the moment that you're on camera, and by the time you get there, you're like, oh, I'm all out, like I feel nothing. I am dead inside.
It happens all the time. Oh my goodness.
But that becomes its own art, right? Like how do you sustain your energy and how do you like what do you give when, and how do you best serve the story and the other people on set, and in that, because it's a big collaboration, and like where do you put your energy?
Well, actually, this kind of like give me an idea, because since you worked as a PA on set for quite a bit, is there any, I mean, like you must have seen a lot of things on set, like go wrong, go well, breakthroughs, embarrassing moments. So do you want to maybe tell us one of the most embarrassing / funniest / memorable moments, whether that was you on set acting or that was you on set PAing and seeing something, you're like, oh my goodness, I just can't believe what I just saw, like, so
oh my gosh, this is a question I wish you told me before, because I'm sure there's something.
It's okay, that's fine. And you don't have to answer it if you feel like there's nothing that comes up. Well, actually, why don't we talk about the first booking that you got here, and how did you handle it? When did you go?
Yeah.
The first professional booking that you got in Canada, was that?
It might have been Anidia.
Peter Allen, Deadly Woman.
That was
Australia.
Australia.
No, you.
I PA'd on
okay,
Supergirl.
PA, okay. Just trying to find it. Amelia?
Anidia?
Amelie? No, what is that?
Yeah. Let me take a look. Okay. So I think it was probably like the first like big thing that I did here was an independent film called Anidia.
Okay.
So that was very cool. That was kind of like, amongst all of
Daphne.
the Daphne. Yeah, that was actually a role I booked in my Australian accent, which was nice.
Oh, did you?
So that film, independent film, female director, the beautiful Liz Cairns. She's a Vancouver girl originally, and we shot it on Salt Spring Island at the end of summer on 16 millimeter
Salt Spring
film.
is nice.
It was beautiful. Like, oh man, like that hands down was like the most, have you ever had those moments on set or with a particular project where you're just like, you kind of stop and you breathe and you look around and you're just like, I hope it feels like this forever.
Yes.
Like being on Anidia felt like that. It also helped that we were in paradise. So it's a very it's like a psychological drama, slow burn, kind of has like cult vibes going on. Think like a less intense, grotesque Midsummer, like that kind of world, but without the horror element. More like slow burn, cult, kind of psychological drama. So very female driven cast, very female driven crew, female director, female producer.
Okay. It's like Wakanda.
It was just it was wonderful, and we shot on this this organic farm in Salt Spring, and we stayed in yurts on the property. Like it was like a slow, delicious walk to set every morning from my yurt. The catering, the people so they put on the farm. They actually put on like yoga and wellness retreats. So they have a kitchen where they cook all this amazing organic produce that they grow on the farm, and we ate like kings. Like it was the most healthy, nourishing, like set food I've ever eaten. And it was sunny every day. It was like the driest month of the year. There were wildflowers everywhere. Like it was beautiful.
When was that? How long ago was this?
That would have been, I want to say 2022.
Okay.
Like just kind of coming out of COVID.
Sick. Okay.
But yeah, I think that one I actually didn't audition in a North American accent. I chose to just do Australian because they wanted.
You swinged it.
But they'd said in the breakdown, I think that if you have an accent, we'd love to hear it.
Okay.
So I think I was like, no, this chick's Australian, and just went with it. But then I think in my slate, I also dropped into like a North American accent and was like, I can also do this if you want.
Nice. Love it.
So yeah, that was pretty incredible.
How many accents can you do? Just.
I mean, without thinking, like an Australian, like a standard North American, and like an RP, like a
British.
Yeah,
nice.
like very proper, kind of Game of Thrones RP kind of thing.
Wow.
So
I would have to practice for that. I can't just fucking turn it on like that.
But that was part of our, again, like growing up in Australia. Like we talk about like, all of the work you have to put in to get to a point where you're taken seriously or even in contention for like big projects in the States. You need to have an American accent. You need to have an English accent because we were training knowing that a lot of work didn't happen in Australia. We would probably have to go at some point. So that training allowed us to prepare for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we like worked for 3 years on and off on like classical voice training. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason why they say like Australians and Brits are such good actors, because they undergo like such strong work ethics and strong training that when they come out of it, they're just ready to tackle anything.
Yeah. Just... I mean, but you also like the training is a bubble as well. Like you spend 3 years with the same like very small group of people. By the end of it, you either like love or hate them, and then you kind of go out into the world because you've been like conservatory training, like 3 years full time is such a gift because you get to work full time as an artist essentially. Sure, I'm still in the background with my 4 jobs, like trying to pay rent, but like your creative soul is growing and is nourished. And when you leave, you're expecting like, oh, I can't wait to graduate so I can start working in film and TV, and then you leave. And then nothing happens, So that's kind of like a scary moment, I think, for anyone that's been in like a multi-year full-time training, because you're like, I'm here, guys, I'm ready, I've done the thing, and then it's like a waiting game.
Yeah, right.
And you have to kind of like adjust to the, oh no, this is what they're talking about.
Right.
This is the wait. Like, and in the meantime, hopefully then you've picked up some skills to be able to like go write a thing together. So that was another thing that I did in preparation for moving here. I like wrote a little short film, contacted some people who I I thought were pretty talented coming out of our local film school.
Yeah.
And we like wrote the script specifically in like the tone of CW because I knew that I was moving to Vancouver.
Yeah.
So it was very, very tactical. I was like, I'm gonna put this thing down in a US accent that feels like it could fit in the CW world.
Nice.
We're gonna light it cool, make it a little like YA edgy, and then
So you guys shot this in Australia?
Shot it in Australia, and that was one of the things that like I then had professional looking content on my demo reel that I could then approach agents with here, being like, I can do an accent. This is where I fit. Like, it was very strategic moving here.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's so good. It's so good to have these little projects that that you put on, and especially like doing it in an American accent when you haven't even moved here, just to kind of maximize your chances, I guess. Like get a strong reel and.
But it's a big thing because you know if you can't like. If your North American accent isn't perfect when you move here, like, well, but you don't have the choice to just not do it in tapes. Like, it's either you have a great accent or like a solid North American accent that you don't have to focus on when you're doing your audition, or you may as well not be auditioning because then they're going to hear it, you know?
It's absolutely true. I mean, it's just, again, like I would never attempt like an accent that I feel like I wouldn't sell it to someone. It has to be like the only person who can actually spot my little accent is someone who's actually from that little place, right? So if I'm attempting a like, I mean, I'm from Arabic in a sense, like for me, like like I can put an Arabic sort of way of speaking English very easily, but also like we have like different dialects of Arabic as well. So sometimes I would have to I had to do like a Moroccan accent like last year, and I'm not from. I don't speak like I speak Arabic, but like Moroccan is very different. Like the way they speak is very different. But I did grow up with a lot of Moroccans, right? So like I know how to do that accent in French because I grew up in Montreal, so I do speak French as well. But like for me, it takes me a bit, right? Be like, okay, that's how they do it. But I feel like what really helps me a lot is just when I have to do an accent. I would just call up someone who lives in that city or whatever. But like, hey, can you just like record yourself?
Read the lines. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll be like, he's like, for what? Like, just don't worry about it, man. Just record them.
Yeah, because it doesn't require that you be able to speak that accent or dialect perfectly.
You just have to.
You just have to know those words.
Yeah. And sometimes like I mean, I didn't even know Christian Bale was British. It's like because he.
Oh yeah.
It's fun.
But even in his interviews, his accent does like shift.
I mean, I guess like I never watched an interview from him because every time I see him in the movies, he's always like speaking American and stuff like that. So I was like, wait, this guy's British?
Yeah.
I was shocked, right? So like, again, it's just putting in the accent for the movie, the show. So
well, when I came here, I deliberately, because I was like afraid of them like hearing my Australian accent in the US accent, so I would never. Well, I would back in the days when we were still like pre-COVID, like I got 6 months of going into rooms. Yeah. I would go in a standard North American accent, and I'd be like, I'd slate like this. I'd be like, "Hi, my name's Chelsea Brown. I'm 5'6". And it would only be after I'd finished the audition that I would then, if they wanted to talk more, I might break into an Australian accent, and then they'd be like, "Oh," and then they'd be surprised by it. But if like. And I don't do this anymore because I'm confident enough in my accent that I've actually now flipped it. Like I used to hide my Australian accent for fear that they would think my North American accent wasn't strong enough. But now that I'm confident in that, I will actually slate in an Australian accent deliberately. Okay. So that they know that they have options. So that they know that they have options, and it's a point of difference. Like it's leaning into. I mean, it's the same stuff that like on screen, like the way you look, the way you sound, like anything that is individually you, anything that makes you, like lean into it. Like it's not like weird or awkward or like things that you should be ashamed of or like hide from casting. Like anything that makes you different is so beautiful on camera. Right. And that's, really and so you, and the thing that's actually going to get you cast 9 times out of 10 is not like how well you can be someone else. It's how well you can be you.
True. Absolutely. I think I couldn't have said it better.
Thanks.
Amazing. So before we wrap this up, I think so Is there anything that you were working on, trying out, that you want to maybe share with us? Anything before we wrap up this session?
Nothing immediately, actually. It's
It
been
doesn't have to be acting related. Like, it could be something that
oh,
you're,
okay.
like maybe something you're trying a new sport, trying a new hobby, travel. I know you're traveling lately, right? So
Yeah, I'm
anything you wanna
doing a
share?
lot of traveling lately. I'm just while the industry is quiet, I'm
Yeah.
like going out and just trying to live my life as much as possible.
Love
So,
it. Yeah.
and I think that's actually that's super important and something that like I really try to bring up whenever I can is like yes, we have to throw so much energy and passion and curiosity into the craft and developing that and like making sure you're in class and like keeping because like at the moment right now we've just gone through a really quiet period in Vancouver.
Yeah.
You know, and
It's still kind of is, yeah.
a quiet like year and a half even. You know, we had the strikes and then there's always a hangover period after the strikes where like people are you know a little shy, a little slow to start picking up production again and slotting things in and you know getting production slates going again. And then we started the year with the LA fires, and I think that kind of
That did
pushed
help,
a lot
yeah.
of stuff as well. And so like a lot of I think the industry in general, like production is down across the board. I think 20% or something.
Yeah. It's bad.
So it's you know and also like the change of format. You know, we used to get you know there was Smallville used to shoot here that was 20 episodes a season. Now everything is like limited series or like the
less
standard is
chances,
8
yeah.
to 10. So people are actually in production for half the time that they used to be. Plus there's less getting shot. So it is quieter across the board. But I think the start of this year is like kind of like scary quiet for a lot of people that live in Vancouver. And I think those times can actually be a gift if you let them be a gift.
They are.
Because I think to be an artist of any kind, like you need to have a life outside of the art, and you need to just work on being an inspired, like fully fleshed out human, and that necessitates having curiosities elsewhere, like
True.
trying new things, pursuing hobbies, like spending time with your friends, traveling, seeing the world, and like taking all of these experiences and enriching yourself with them, because not only is it going to show up in the work at some point, like you'll never know when you like oh, like I do ceramics at some point.
Oh yeah, I think you mentioned that.
At some point, like the fact that I can
Yeah.
you know go ghost in front of a camera you know make a ceramic piece
Yes.
will serve me.
Yes,
you
for
know
sure.
like no
You know, there's something
skill.
I've been wanting to try actually. It's like the pottery thing where there's like this rotating
Yeah,
chain
like
thingy and then-
wheel throwing
I don't know
on.
what that's called, but
Yeah.
I've always wanted to try that.
You should.
Yeah?
I'll give you
Yeah, let's
there's
do it together
a studio in
sometime.
town that I go to called Bahu that's
Call me up.
amazing.
Let's fucking do it.
Absolutely, let's do
down.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
down.
But
I've always wanted to try it. I don't know like who's actually into this here.
lots of
It seems
people.
like you
It
are,
rains
so-
all the time here. You need
Really?
hobbies.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
So
I'll text you. We'll go together sometime. I'm super down.
pottery. Everyone go do pottery. This is your sign.
I want, yeah, I want to try it. It looks like really cool, like the way like it they shape it just like off the machine and like you know the hands like the movements or whatever.
Man, like
It's
it's
stunning.
it is humbling.
It's
Like
stunning.
I feel like there are actually like
Yeah.
so many life lessons to be learnt in
Yes.
making ceramics, particularly wheel throwing. Like
Yeah.
you have to you're essentially creating something functional out of literally water and dirt. And then
Crazy.
but like you have to on a wheel you have to find your center. You might spend half an hour working on a piece and then you bump it and it's destroyed, and then you have to start again, and you have to be okay with like
That's so cool.
you have to be okay with like letting it go and being like, okay, well, like take a deep breath. It's okay. Start again. Like things are impermanent. Things fall apart. You can always pick up and start again. And I think that, you know, when we go off and we experience all these different things, there's so many life lessons to be found in just
Absolutely.
the human experience.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, you'll be happier.
Yeah.
Because if you're relying on just acting to make you happy, it's you know like I feel like that's a dangerous game to play. Like you have to like find joy in many places,
Right.
but all of those experiences do come back to enrich the work. So
Yeah. Nice.
yeah.
Okay. I just remembered like I wanted to ask one last thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know we had like this whole episode about law in the beginning. Now, that being said, okay, we're not gonna have this conversation again.
Okay.
So I'm trying to understand like how much you wouldn't really go back in there, but if you had a role where you're going for a lawyer, okay?
Oh,
Hands down,
that law degree
I'll do
will
that.
serve me. And but
Yeah.
that's also the cool thing. Like in a slate, you can actually be like,
I have a degree in law.
hi, just so
say it.
you know, I spent 6 years studying law, and I am very comfortable in this character.
I
Why
love it.
not?
That's so
You know?
good. Yes. Yeah, it'll be like a way to put that degree into practice, I guess, if it ever.
Yeah.
That could be the way.
That could be the reason I did a law degree, is so I
Yes.
booked that like series regular on that law
That would
procedural.
be sick. We'll manifest it. We'll manifest it. Okay. Love it. All right. The great Chelsea Brown, everyone. Isn't she lovely? She's amazing. So talented. Such a great honor to have you. Honestly, thank you so much for joining us, for coming on, and we should have you again some other time.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
in better times when it's more busy.
Yes.
But yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much again for tuning in, guys. Peace.